Ladies and gentlemen, India's second richest man, Gautam Adani, has been indicted in a major bribery scandal by the US Justice Department, and an arrest warrant has been issued against him in New York. The charges, and let me emphasize that these are only charges so far, are stunning and put a question mark over corporate governance in India. At the center of the scandal is India's biggest solar energy deal involving the Adanis, the Solar Energy Corporation of India, and officials and politicians spread across 5 states and union territories. The bribe is an alleged amount of 2,000 crore rupees. Now here is what the charges are. Adani Green struck a deal with the Solar Energy Corporation of India, which is a Government of India Navratna company, to supply them with 12 gigawatts of solar power. But this deal encountered turbulence when the Solar Corporation of India realized that there were no buyers for this solar power. This is when, allegedly, Gautam Adani and others stepped in with a bribe offer of 2,000 crore rupees to state government officials to get their discoms to buy power from the Solar Corporation of India. If state discoms did that, the 2 billion deal could be saved. It could be salvaged. Let me go straight across to Ritanshu, who is getting us more clarity and more details on what exactly the charges are. Ritanshu, it's over to you.
Thanks, Cindy. Now, this entire Adani bribe trail is quite a murky, convoluted mess, which may be difficult to understand. So we at Mirana have tried to break it down in the form of a flowchart. So it all starts with 2 companies, Adani Green, which is, of course, owned by the Adani company, and a US-based company, which is a US issue known as Azure Power. Together, they strike energy or solar power deals with a PSU called the SECI, which is the Solar Energy Corporation of India. It's one of the Navratna PSUs, or the 9 top PSUs that have been specifically demarcated by the central government. Now, these two have struck a deal worth billions of dollars with the SECI. The problem arises when the SECI suddenly decides that it has no one to sell the solar power in India to. That is when, now, all of this is according to the US indictment, that is when Adani reportedly panics, and so he decides to give bribes to this Indian government official who has been mentioned in the indictment report. Now, 2 caveats. We don't know whether this Indian government official is a central government official or a state government official. He's just been mentioned in the US indictment report as an Indian government official here. In fact, he or she is referred to multiple times as foreign official number 1, someone who got a key amount of the kickbacks. In fact, 1750 of the 2,000 crores that was given in bribes was given to this individual. Why were these bribes given to this individual? Apparently, to influence state governments, so one of them being the Andhra Pradesh government, which was then under Chief Minister Jagan Mohan Reddy, to ensure that a deal is struck with Navratna PSU. So essentially, the charge against Gautam Adani is that he gave up to 2,000 crores as bribes to Indian government officials, who then use their influence to ensure that there are buyers for for SECI or Navratna PSU, in order to ensure that their solar power is then secured as tenders and deals with state governments. The most important thing, which has been specifically highlighted in the indictment report, is the Andhra Pradesh government. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you very much. Now, the indictment is coming after a 2-year probe by the US government and is saying what exactly happened. It says that Mr. Adani, and this is all in the indictment report, Mr. Adani personally met with a high-ranking official of the Andhra government who was offered 1,750 crore rupees as bribe. In turn, this official ensured that Andhra Pradesh procures 7 out of the 12 gigawatts in question. Now, question is, as Ritanshu also pointed out, who was this official? Well, the indictment doesn't name him, but calls him foreign official number 1, and then goes on to say that he was in power from 2019 to 2024. A clear indication that it was under the YSRCP government. So to cut a long story short, ladies and gentlemen, the charge is that Mr. Adani paid the YSRCP a bribe of 1,750 crore rupees to keep his $2 billion solar deal afloat. Now, the indictment says, and let's change the graphic so you'll understand that better. The indictment says that subsequently, 4 other states, Odisha, Tamil Nadu, Chhattisgarh, and Jammu and Kashmir, under the LG, 2 brought solar power from the SECI, that's the Solar Corporation of India. But this indictment doesn't mention any bribe charges as far as the 3 states and 1 union territory is concerned. Now, the Adani Group has denied all charges and says it will seek all legal recourse available to them. But that didn't stop their stocks from nosediving today. Neither did that stop the opposition from targeting the Prime Minister and seeking a joint parliamentary probe into all of Mr. Adani's alleged scams. Listen in.
अदानी जी का अरेस्ट होना चाहिए, आज अरेस्ट होना चाहिए। माधवी बुच जो हैं, जो उनकी प्रोटेक्टर हैं, जिन्होंने कोई इन्वेस्टिगेशन नहीं किया, उनको हटाया जाना चाहिए, उन पर इन्वेस्टिगेशन होना चाहिए। प्रधानमंत्री जी 100% इस व्यक्ति की प्रोटेक्शन कर रहे हैं और इस व्यक्ति ने हिंदुस्तान के एसेट्स लिए हैं, भ्रष्टाचार करके एसेट्स लिए हैं। ये व्यक्ति बीजेपी को पूरा समर्थन करते हैं, पूरा सपोर्ट देते हैं। ये एस्टैब्लिश चीज़ें हैं। हम दोहराते जाएंगे, जेपीसी की मांग हमारी है, बट हम चाहते हैं कि अदानी जी को एकदम अरेस्ट किया जाए। और हम जानते हैं और हम देश को दिखाना चाहते हैं कि अदानी जी की अरेस्ट नहीं होगी। और इसलिए नहीं होगी क्योंकि हिंदुस्तान के प्रधानमंत्री अदानी जी के पीछे खड़े हुए हैं और उनके प्रोटेक्टर हैं।
राहुल जी कह रहे थे इंडिया हाईजैक हो गया है। गलत, टेंस गलत है। पास्ट टेंस में होना चाहिए था, फ्यूचर टेंस और प्रेजेंट टेंस में नहीं। इंडिया हाईजैक हो गया था। गांधी परिवार, ये नकली गांधी परिवार उसके हाईजैकर थे। कमांडो ने मुक्त कराया है हाईजैकिंग से। अब भारत का जो इकोनॉमिक जहाज है वह रनवे पे 2014 से रफ्तार से दौड़ करके अब 35,000 की फुट की ऊंचाई पर उड़ान भर रहा है। तीसरे नंबर की इकोनॉमिक शक्ति बनने जा रहा है। तो राहुल गांधी, इंडिया इज नॉट हाईजैक्ड, इंडिया वाज हाईजैक्ड। टुडे इंडिया इज सोरिंग हाई एज फार एज इकोनॉमी इज कंसर्न।
जिस प्रकार से भारतीय जनता पार्टी कि केंद्र सरकार है, उसकी एजेंसी है और सवाल खड़ा करने मतलब मानसिक दिवालियापन है। भूपेश बघेल से क्या संबंध है, इस प्रकार से सवाल उनके प्रवक्ता जो पूछ रहे हैं उसकी एजेंसी है, अपने एजेंसी पे विश्वास नहीं है। मैं तो इनके प्रवक्ताओं पे मानहानि का दावा करूंगा कि मेरा नाम जबरदस्ती घसीटा जा रहा है। इनके लोग हैं जो खुलेआम इनके मंत्री बिटकॉइन के और दूसरे म्यूचुअल फंड के और पता नहीं क्रिप्टो करेंसी के मामले में भाषण दे रहे हैं, उसमें इन्वेस्टमेंट करने की बात कर रहे हैं। उनके खिलाफ इनकी बोल नहीं पाते और हम लोगों के बारे में बोल रहे हैं। हम लोग क्या संबंध है भाई?
Now, in case you're wondering how bribes paid in India by an Indian company to Indian government officials are any of America's business, well, that's because money for this solar energy project was raised in the US, which means US investors are concerned, US banks were involved, which is why under US law, the US has every right to investigate the case, which they have for the last 2 years or so. There's a piece of breaking news now coming in. We are talking about the fallout of the indictment in the US of the Adani Group. It now seems that there is a big fallout that is coming out in Africa. Kenya has decided to cancel its deals with the Adani Group. So Kenya has cancelled the deal for its main airport that was given to Adani's. A power supply deal has been scrapped by Kenya as well. That's the big piece of news and the big fallout that is coming into the picture this evening. Let me also introduce my guest to you this evening. Sanjay Hegde is a senior advocate joining us on the broadcast. Dr. Pooja Tripathi is spokesperson of the Congress joining us on the broadcast. Manish Bariyar is a political analyst, and PV Subramania is an author. He is also a personal finance expert. He is joining us on the broadcast. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being with us. Manish, I'm going to start with you. Please help me understand that it's the US Department of Justice that makes an indictment or puts charges against Gautam Adani. Where is the need for the BJP to jump in and defend him? And what does this have to do with Donald Trump, with George Soros and Rahul Gandhi? It's not Rahul Gandhi who has framed these charges.
So my question would be, why is Rahul Gandhi so eager to really, accept the fact that anything which comes from US has to be something which is something which is a proof of something, isn't it? It is only a charge which has been made. I'm also not very sure. You've mentioned, so obviously you would be right, but I somewhere read that the entire charge was made in October, but since you have repeated it number of times, 2 years. But I would really like to, check that whether the case was filed 2 years back or not, because I heard or I was reading somewhere that the charges were framed in October 24, in front of the judges.
Manish, can I just, since you've asked me a question, could I just respond, please?
Yeah,
Give me a minute here. I'm not trying to interrupt you, please. I don't want to stop your flow of thought. So 2 years ago, there are two whistleblowers who gave a tip-off to the stock exchange in the United States of America. This is when the United States launches an investigation. Post the investigation, and post 2 years of probe is when the indictment has come. Now, this is the information that is publicly available to us. But go ahead.
Can I ask you a question, please? Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead,
am I audible
please,
to you? Yeah, am I audible to you?
Yes, Manish, you are. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, so this case, it seems that it is October 24. So 2 years ago, if the charges were made for what? I could not understand. Which is why I was saying that this 2 years which is coming out.
Over this deal, because there was a small company by the name of Azure that was also part of the Adani deal with the SECI. So there were two whistleblowers who go and make the charges to the US stock exchange, which is when the investigation starts to see if actually there is any merit in what these people are saying. So after 2 years of investigation is when, or probe, is when these indictments have been made. Again, indictments only charges. This is just like a charge sheet in India. Nothing has been proven yet.
Absolutely. Now coming back to your question, which you were talking about, where does George Soros comes in? So, a lot of us believe that this is not about Adani and SEC. This is more about India and US, and it's about geopolitics, right? And, many of us believe that Rahul Gandhi jumping into this, maybe he's maybe naive, or he's not able to understand what's happening, and he's basically political slugfesting, because it could be a case of, now the new Trump administration is coming up, and you have Elon Musk. He was not so welcome as far as his spectrum and satellite cases are concerned. So there are differences of opinion in how the business has to be conducted between India and US. And as our economy grows, we would see such kind of, ploys being made. It's very surprising how Kenya, really cancelled it. No, connection to Kenya as such. So it could be a larger game. I'm not so sure about it, but yes, we do read reports. We find out that a lot of things are happening. So I felt that it was immature on the part of Congress and Rahul Gandhi to really direct Prime Minister. What does Prime Minister has to do with this? Right? It's a company. There are hundreds of companies which keeps coming and going. So to really directly attack Prime Minister was in very, very bad taste. And similarly, Rahul Gandhi could be asked so many questions on Bofors, on Kothrochi, and so many other things every day. Right, he has cases against him, and you have Young India and so many things. But so it's like and I'm not even defending. I'm saying that without proof, only US brings in charges. So therefore, is it not justified that if somebody brings George Soros because he meets George Soros, there are a number of connections, pictures, associations are there. What's wrong? And then if you are working in the realm of possibilities, then this possibility can also come that is he attacking because of political affiliations to the left parties in US or somebody who may not have good interests for India. So that is why that answers your question why this George Soros and all these things come.
Okay. Again, all speculative, but a lot of people are allowed to. Everyone has a view on the matter, and everyone is allowed a view on the matter. But Sanjay Hegde, would you want to come in here?
No, I just want to put the facts straight. 2 years ago, two whistleblowers went and told the SEC, look, Azure Power, which is a US-based company and all that, is with an Indian company, the Adani Group, bribing Indian officials. That violates the US Act on US corporations bribing foreign officials. The SEC, along with their Department of Justice, then started an investigation. It's obvious that the investigation has been going on, and in the meanwhile, it has found enough material which it has brought before a US grand jury and received an indictment. That means that the grand jury says, look, there is enough material for this matter to go to trial. Grand juries do not automatically approve of any indictment that is brought before them. So you mentioned that this is like a charge sheet. No, this is not like a charge sheet filed by the police. This is, in Indian law, the stage at which a court determines that there are charges which the accused has to answer. And normally the morality followed in India is that if a court frames charges, the politician concerned resigns. I'm just telling you where we stand in terms of equivalence. So today, we have a situation where India's second richest man, India's biggest corporation, and in effect, India Enterprise, the West India Company, which now rules India, that is an indicted conspirator in a US court. I quite liked the previous speaker saying, oh, this is all geopolitics and Elon Musk sort of trying to buy his way in, trying to strong arm and get spectrum. Yes, they might all be aligned. But it reminded me of that old saying that when thieves fall out, it's time for honest men to rejoice. So it does look like many big corporations may have their own interests, but at the end of the day, you have a certain amount of investigative evidence, which a US grand jury, having seen, says, look, there is enough material now to go to trial. There are now the options before the Adani Group are either to go to trial or to enter into a plea bargain with the prosecutors. Normally, when a prosecution puts out the material and gets an indictment, the advice often given is, let us see whether we can work this out with the prosecutors and get a deal which is acceptable. Sometimes things are settled by way of pleading guilty and agreeing to a fine. Sometimes prosecutors hold out and say, no, we want prison time. So this is where the game will currently go.
Okay. So Dr. Pooja Tripathi, the BJP is saying two things. Even Manish has mentioned it. It is a private individual, an Indian corporate, yes, but a private individual who has been indicted. What does this have to do with the Prime Minister, they ask. And they ask, if you look at the state governments that have been mentioned, all of them are ruled by the opposition. Of course, the BJP very conveniently forgot Jammu and Kashmir, which then was, as a union territory before the elections, was under, an LG. But they, of course, conveniently forgot that. But how do you respond to these two charges? What does the Prime Minister have to do with this? Dr. Tripathi, please unmute yourself.
I'm sorry. Shreya, I want to put it across to Bharatiya Janata Party instead. The grave charges are against a private individual, a corporate house of bribing the officials worth 2,200 crores, raising investment by fraudulent means worth 25,000 crores, booking and manipulating competition. Why is Bharatiya Janata Party? There are 64 mainstream political parties in India. Why has Bharatiya Janata Party come out and done a press conference in support of this individual? And why is Bharatiya Janata Party shying away from JPC is what I ask. Second, Shreya, you just mentioned what is the role. Without diluting the issue, I want to remind you of Sholay. There was a dialogue by Bachchan ji where he said that, जुआ खेलता है, दारू पीता है, पर लड़का तो हीरा है, हीरा मौसी. What has Adani with the government of India that, the party in power jumps to do a press conference and accuses, and I think this George Soros is deep state is an overused, overexploited and overdone with argument. Hindenburg was a manageable crisis. You had a national flag in background. You said national interest. You're disrupting the India's growth story, ambitions and all that. But now, as Sanjay just pointed out, these are grave charges by Department of Justice after 2 years probe. And while this probe was going on, there were notices being sent out to Adani Group, and Adani Group lied about these notices to the SEBI. This brings the SEBI chief Madhavi Buch also in the whole picture. And when you ask, as you said, the indictment is clear. We had Chhattisgarh government, we had Tamil Nadu where we are in alliance. This is in JNK, if they conveniently forget, there's YRCP government. So Rahul Gandhi was very, very upfront about it. Go and interrogate. This whole indictment mentions foreign official 1, foreign official 2. But whom does it mention explicitly is Gautam Adani. So why don't you arrest Gautam Adani? Why don't you lay bare all the illegal deals he has been involved in? How did he raise money by fraudulent means? Where is SEBI's involvement in this? And why is government taking the side of a corporate house and then not taking this corporate house into account? This is what we are asking. And these are some grave charges, not by George Soros, not by deep state. And this whole right-wing, I have said it's overused. And that's what Rahul Gandhi is saying. Arrest him, lay bare, tell to the nation that what deals you have been cooking, because cookie has started to crumble, and this will just they conveniently forget the non-BJP rule state. I'll just take 10 seconds.
Pooja,
Maharashtra and
Dr. Pooja, but here's what I'll say. That you cannot arrest anyone without a trial, right? We are not judge, jury and executioner. Rahul Gandhi is not judge, jury and executioner कि बोले इसको arrest कर ले. भाई arrest के लिए भी तो कुछ चाहिए ना इंडिया में. But PV, give me a minute here. PV Subramaniam, what I find extremely interesting in the entire sequence of events is that there is YSRCP on one side that has got 85% of this alleged bribe money, 1,750 crore rupees. There is allegedly Gautam Adani who paid this bribe. And in the middle of all of this is the Solar Energy Corporation of India. And today the Solar Energy Corporation of India, to Reuters, has said that there are not enough grounds for us to launch a probe. Very interesting. Very surprising to me also. Sir, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, sorry. FBI has filed a case in the New York court for bribery and fraud, naming a few people, including Mr. Gautam Adani, Sagar Adani, who I believe is his nephew, Vineet Jain, who was then the CEO of Adani Green and all that. Okay. And there are 5 serious charges of fraud, 5 counts of fraud. One is the securities fraud, one is the wire fraud, one is the bribery fraud, violation of FCPA, which means the prevention of corruption abroad, right? So that, and obstruction of justice. Now, these are very serious charges, absolutely no doubt about that. But whether they paid a bribe to Andhra Pradesh, whether they paid a bribe to J&K is none of FBI's business. So I don't think why we are getting so confused about what is happening here. This is a clear indictment of the Adani Group for what activities they did here, and it's a 54-page document, which I mean, it's difficult to read. First of all,
Correct.
second, they say that this has happened, and this is just a go ahead for the FBI to start the investigation. Of course, the Adani Group they'll go to court, but these indictments have happened in the past. I don't think there is easy settlement. This is not some SEC thing. It is in FBI saying such a thing has happened. And the worst thing is, I think they have done let me use the word Pegasus ka baap, because they've said that the defendants have documented the bribe. Sagar Adani used his phone to track specific details of the bribe, kisko diya, wahan se kahan pahuncha. Perhaps there is only one person who received the bribe and gave it to everybody, so none of the other states have been mentioned. They've been mentioned, but they have not said what is how much is gone to whom. They've also, Vineet Jain and Rupesh Agarwal maintained PPT and Excel sheets of the bribe tracking. Imagine FBI had all these details. The investigation started in 2020, not in 22. In 2020,
Correct.
they've got extensive details. They've kept everything and they have filed. I mean, look at the document. And to think, I mean, they could have filed it 4 days earlier, and then you would have, oh, it was perfectly timed for the Maharashtra Assembly elections. I think we are overdoing it. I don't think any of that is true. Yes, a case has been filed, they will defend it. I don't think that. And I don't think the FBI cares a damn what you did in India, but the fact that you raised money in US and that company depended on Adani Green, and Adani Green gave this price, that is the problem.
Manish Bharia, therefore, when you question the timing, you know, a lot of people from the right wing, including you, have said this is not about Adani and Modi and Rahul Gandhi. This is a larger, you know, this is a larger geopolitical game at play. Look at the timing. It is coming right ahead of Trump getting into his presidency, etc. Frankly, the link is not being established. What is this larger conspiracy that you're alluding to? Fact is, after a probe is when the US Department of Justice has framed this indictment. The indictment, it seems, has come after the probe had enough proof to at least start a trial, etc. My point is, you can question the timing, you can blame Rahul Gandhi, but jo hai, wo to hai na.
So, is a question to me, Shreya?
Yes, Mr. Bharia, go ahead, please.
So, the gentleman before me was saying it started in 2020. So, I don't know, sometimes I question what is that interest in Adani, from US? What could be so? There are so many companies all over the world, right? What is so special about Adani that US has been doing this for last 4 years? That puts so much of question mark that is it not business rivalry or something else? Or maybe, some kind of, quid pro quid in terms of how politics is being played, or is it something which is against the BJP itself? Because we never found US being so interested earlier, before that and during UPA rule. And to say that there were no corruption charges against any Indian company in any of the contracts is something which would be pretty ludicrous, isn't it? So, and to say that no US company was involved here in any of the
Mr.
cases.
But Mr. Bharia, the US and India share a very good relationship.
Absolutely. So,
the Prime Minister has just met Joe Biden. He's called Trump the next president, my good friend.
Absolutely. But my point was
we share a very good relationship with the US.
These are courtesies, very good. On various issues, we are actually cooperating with each other. But it doesn't mean that we are not competing, right? We are collaborating. So we are friends as well as we are competing. So, you cannot one cannot dismiss. You can see in US elections also, people kept dismissing things and Trump came out winner because people were fed up with the kind of conspiracy theories. Everything cannot be put as a conspiracy theory. So my point is something else, very simple. Yes, Adani could be wrong. I'm not even saying that Adani is, that kind of a holy grail that they cannot be wrong. And so could be thousands of other Indian companies, and many of the US companies have been indicted all over the world, isn't it? But to have so special interest in one company raises a lot of questions, in fact. And 4 years of probe. I was again reading, and I think the lawyer here, the prominent lawyer here, could throw some light, because I was reading that in the trial court the case was brought in October 2024. Obviously, now I've understood when he said that it's being 2 years. Our finance expert says that it started in 2020 itself. So, there are a lot of question marks as to how things are panning out. And my question is only one. I always feel that Mr. Rahul Gandhi and Congress is doing a disservice to the investors, to the entire investment community, and to our corporate world by being so direct, by being accusing without any proof, until and not waiting till the case has really settled. I think that is where is my question mark. It is something which is damaging our country's reputation as well as the corporate very much.
Okay. I will give 20 seconds to Sanjay Hegde to respond to that, to respond to the last part that Manish has brought up. And also, Sanjay Hegde, whether you find it curious that the Solar Energy Corporation of India thinks, even after the indictment, even after all the details are out in the public, that there are not enough grounds for it to launch a probe.
Well, the Solar Energy Corporation of India is deliberately not saying things. The saying goes, none is so blind as he who will not see. That's what they're doing. Now, as far as this extra interest in Adani goes, the question can be turned around. Why is the extra interest in defending what should be one businessman? The point is that this man is now India, in one sense. The old saying in the US was, what's good for General Motors is good for the United States. It now appears that whatever is good for Adani is good for India, and vice versa. If it is bad for Adani, it is bad for India. That is something which I have issue with. The problem is that now Mr. Adani will have great problems raising money anywhere in the world. There will be an investment risk. The interest rates on the Adani companies will go up. But it will not be confined to Mr. Adani alone. Indian corporations, all of them will be blackened. It will be said that India has no corporate governance, that Indian markets are not fairly regulated, that the regulator is compromised. The Indian government today has a chance. Does it stand with India or does it stand with Adani? If it wants to stand with Adani, it can shut its eyes. If it wants to stand with India, it has to clean the stables.
Sanjay Hegde, we'll leave it there for the moment. Thank you very much for joining us. Dr. Pooja Tripathi, thank you very much. Manish Bariyar, good to have you on the show. And PV Subramania, thank you very much for joining us on the show. It's a complex story, but I'm glad that we could get all points of views in. It's a story we continue to track right here on Mirror Now. For the moment, slipping into a quick break on the show. Coming up next, fresh exit poll numbers for Maharashtra. Has the picture gotten any clearer since yesterday? That's what we are looking at. Do stay with us.